Can you please quiet down? Is The Lord of the Rings outdated? Yes and no. Let us peel away the layers of glory, the garments of infallibility that are associated with Tolkien's work. I will try and treat The Lord of the Rings as any old book I would read, not as the cornerstone of fiction itself, but just a book. This week, I'll be reviewing The Fellowship of the Ring, the first part. The book, not the movie. Check out my other reviews of the fantasy genre, and smite that subscribe button while you're at it. Age rating at the end. So, on with the review. Plot, 7 out of 10. Upon this aspect of the story, the allegations of outdatedness could be laid. There is a prologue, which I completely did not skip the first time I read The Lord of the Rings. Most epic fantasy novels begin with a hooking prologue, which shows the uniqueness of their world. The Lord of the Rings began with a ton of world building. Pages upon pages of how the Shire came to be, their cultures, their customs, the layout of the land. All in all, only the biggest of nerds could be excited about reading this. The rest of the first chapters were quite excellent. The party was a joy to read, a good and meaningful action to begin with. The shadow of the past introduced the ring in all its malevolent glory, showcasing its power over poor little Bilbo. Then the trip to Rivendell was filled with interesting events. Tom Bombadil, the Old Forest, Tom Bombadil, the Freaky Barrow Downs. Flight to the Ford was epic in the movies, but you know what? Tolkien somehow made it more epic, as instead of Arwen helping him, Frodo rode over the ford by himself and faced the ring and the Nazgul all by himself. The same thing happened at the Bridge of Khazad-dûm. The dread and the drums were palpable, shaking your insides. Tolkien has showed himself the master at weaving words, making the book even more vibrant than the movie. The power of his words to invoke feeling is unmatched. No other author has that sense. People say his writing has become outdated, but only his prologue is like that. It was written for people with longer attention spans than we have today. But his writing is absolutely timeless. One last thing to add to this section. The Fellowship of the Ring book ends before Boromir dies, right after Sam and Frodo start on their journey alone. Boromir actually died in the Two Towers, right at the beginning. Now, on to the next. Characters, 8 out of 10. Strider, Sam, Merry, Pippin, the Nazgul, Butterbur. An extraordinary cast of colourful characters, ranging from tall to short, mysterious to homely. What is important to note is the difference in feeling between the Black Riders in the book and the Black Riders in the movie. The Black Riders at the beginning of the book were much more wretched, hunched, fleeing at the very thought of meeting elves. Tom Bombadil, now that is an interesting character. This is what Tolkien had down to an art. Interesting people populate Middle-earth in droves. Each feels as if they have their own extraordinary backstory. For example, Glorfindel. In the movies, he was replaced by Arwen in helping Frodo. He once 1v1'd a Balrog in the First Age and died while doing so, but then came back to life. He pulled the Gandalf the White before it was cool. Anyway, this shows the history behind the characters, whether they are known or unknown. Tom Bombadil. The introduction of Strider was unique, as Tolkien really leveraged the technique of shaping your impression of a character through everybody's reaction to that character. The drama of the secret society who investigated Bilbo was hilarious. Onto the rest of the Fellowship. The only downside here is Legolas, who is the least interesting of the lot. If you enjoy somebody who can do superhuman stunts but is uninteresting in every other way, he is for you. Gimli is the polar opposite of Legolas in strengths and weaknesses as well. His foibles are as numerous as they are interesting, and his humor is natural. Boromir, the most overlooked, complex character who really made this book. Without his amazing character arc and redemption, Gandalf, surprisingly, has flaws, which in the end make him interesting. In order to pick them up, you have to read through the book thoroughly. World building, 9 out of 10. I touched on this previously. Each character, especially elven characters, have his or her own backstories. As I said, Glorfindel, who had a very brief appearance, has one of the most epic backstories. Elrond, Galadriel, Celebrimbor, I could go on for hours. Another amazing aspect are the exposition dumps. Usually they have a bad connotation, but every time it sounds as if we have an abbreviated summary of an epic story. You get the sense of a gripping story attached to every part of Middle-earth. This is what happens when you devote most of your writing career to a single world. Overall, 8 out of 10. So, is The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring outdated? Can you please quiet down? Perhaps to those who have read nothing of classics, who can't handle the difference between his culture and ours. I, for one, think that his culture in some ways is better. How hopeful is this book? How innocent its characters? We hardly get this integrity of moral character in modern fiction anymore. If there was a single book to sell over 600 million copies, there was no more wholesome a book than The Lord of the Rings. Age rating, 10+. Can you guys quiet down? The absolute biggest barrier is the English language level, but compared to Dune, it is next to nothing. If you like this review, check out my other reviews of fantasy novels. Like, subscribe, and smite that bell button while you're at it, if you want to watch more as they come out. Anyway, Veronwë out.